Do you know what it's like when you first get on a roller coaster and you're going up the hill and the roller coaster is going clickety-clack, clickety-clack, and you have no idea what it's gonna be like? Maybe you're gonna have the time of your life, or maybe you're gonna be terrified. Here, okay. If he's acting like this, I'm starting to second guess my decision to have him interact with Inertia, my dog, again. By the way, did I mention that I'm not fond of roller coasters? This is Chop, a wild Alaskan street dog with minimal human contact. His manners leave a lot to be desired. We are in Alaska to get this man ready for his new life, if we can survive it. This is Reality Dog Training. Subscribe and click the bell so you never miss an episode. So today I'm taking this untrained dog to a public park. And my wife, who's just sitting behind the camera, isn't even trying to stop me right now. If he's acting like this around other dogs out here, I'm starting to second guess my decision to have him interact with Inertia, my dog, again. This is the second half of our first day together. I touched on some super basic training with Chop earlier today to start building that communication. I was using his meal to train him. We were having great results for the most part. Have you ever had a dog food that was so good you were tempted to eat it yourself? I'm not saying I have eaten my dog's food. This tastes exactly like if I was trying to eat super healthy. Don't be jealous. People make fun of me for it, but tell me that doesn't look like something you would eat. Well, I mean, it looks like human food because it is human food. Nom Nom has veterinary nutritionists that will actually design a fresh meal for your dog, and they ship these pre-portioned meals right to your door. And yes, that plastic is recyclable. Use my special link, trynom.com/Zach to get 50% off a 2-week trial. I'm gonna have a link in the description. So even though we had progress this morning, having progress carry over in a more enticing place, than my driveway, is not super likely on day one. But ready or not, I feel I need to take Chop into public to see how he behaves. It will be a fact-finding mission. So we have some dogs walking up here. There are so many unknowns with him. I have no idea how he reacts to other dogs yet. So he's curious about them. We've just gotten out of the car, so I want to let them clear out. That actually caught me off guard there. I was a little surprised by that. I barely know this dog, and I've only got a few weeks to train him. By taking him out to this real-world environment, this is going to tell me what I need to work on in order to find him the best home possible. I'm keeping an eye on Chop's overall demeanor to try to get some clues about his emotional state during his experience here. Look at his tail, more alert. He sees this dog over here playing. All right, let's go, come on. He may have never been to a place quite like this, He sees a lot of people. There are a lot of distractions here at this particular park. So you can see he's very interested in his surroundings for sure. It may not look like it, but he's definitely pulling quite hard. Just because he's pulling right here, I don't like all that tension around his neck. So I'm gonna go ahead and put him on the harness, and I'll reiterate the really big objective here is to let him get out to see this world, because he's gonna have to be a well-adjusted dog with his new family. Since we have bikes on this path, I've got to be extra careful too. Boy, look at him, he loves investigating the grass here. We're in a much different environment than we just were. So you can see if I'm like, hey, here, look at me, not interested. I've just got to let him check things out. I'm going to create some distance though. I mean, you guys remember just a couple of hours ago, he was looking at me and paying attention to me almost perfectly at times, right? He was doing it in the living room just fine. Then we went outside and there was even dogs barking in the background, and I was still able to get his attention like it was nothing. But out here, he's pretty clearly overwhelmed so far. Okay, so he didn't look at me, but he didn't have an outburst either, so that's fair. In general, it's probably not a good idea for him to interact with dogs in public. I want him knowing that there's a time and a place to interact with dogs, but when we're out on a walk like this, that's not the time. So I don't want to reinforce that by having him go up and greet other dogs right now. Some dogs can really react to things like bicycles or rollerblades. And you might recall, I struggled with this with my own dog Inertia when she was younger. Don't know if he's ever seen a bicycle. I do know he has seen 4 of them right now though, so that's a pretty good experience. As I'm looking at him, sometimes he appears more relaxed and other times he seems more on edge. From time to time, I'll see him yawning coupled with other signs of anxiety. So he's kind of in and out. Here. Not yet. All right, here we go. I can't get him to look at me. He's not paying attention to me at all out here. I halfway expected this. I thought he might be a little more compliant than this, but I'm not deterred by it because this is completely normal. It's clear he just needs more desensitizing to the environment. So I think walking around, even parking here and just hanging out is probably our best bet. He did react to the first dogs he saw, but the last dogs he's done really well with, albeit at a slightly farther distance. So as this dog approaches, hopefully he'll react favorably. Oh, sorry. Relax. Oh, interesting. That's the most significant reaction I've seen out of him. Again, I'm almost positive. Here, okay. Come here. That was definitely less than ideal. If he's acting like this around other dogs out here, I'm starting to second guess my decision to have him interact with Inertia, my dog, again. Now, Inertia's history with other dogs has been fraught with challenges. One thing we can say for certain is that Chop acts exuberant and sometimes hyperactive in the presence of dogs. And Inertia doesn't always love big, exuberant dogs. Okay, let's break down what happened. So leading up to this point, we had been in this spot for a good while, and Chop was pretty calmly watching things go by at various distances. But as this dog is approaching, Chop is completely fixated. So the next best thing that I can think of to do here is to let him observe the dog calmly, just like he did with the last dog. So hopefully he can simply satisfy his curiosity and we can begin to move on from this. This is an example where Chop is clearly over threshold. That's where your dog's emotional state is so high they become unable to pay attention to you. When this happens when I have a dog, I fall back on management. In other words, I just try to control the dog, keep him from acting out or getting access to the other dog, obviously, and trying to get him away from whatever is causing him to behave that way. In other words, I'm trying to de-escalate the situation. Moving forward, I'm going to be doing my best to minimize outbursts like this in the future while also trying to make progress with him over the time that I have him. So the best thing I can do is try to better prepare him for situations just like this. It's all right, buddy. You okay? Relax. I'm pretty positive he just wants to play. Nonetheless, he cannot be doing that when he sees dogs. So we're starting probably to see some of his true nature come out here, a very enthusiastic, large, strong dog. But right now you can see he's not interested in paying attention to me. In fact, quite the opposite. He's reacting and lunging. At least it gives us something to work on. One of the problems with where I am right now is I couldn't really get farther away. I kind of backed myself into a corner. So I'm gonna stop the walk right here. I'm gonna pull off to a bench and hang out and let Chop just check out his environment and hopefully experience what it's like to be calm in the presence of dogs. We're about to get a test to see if he can even manage this distance right now. Okay, hey, relax. All right, hey, relax. Good man, it's okay. Okay, good boy. He seems to be recovering okay here, but it's pretty borderline. Something that might be complicating matters is the fact that we have him on leash at all. Obviously, in an environment like this, he has to be comfortable on leash, but he may not be very comfortable with public outings like this while being on a leash. He doesn't know how he's supposed to act yet. Remember, until recently, Chop was a wild dog wandering the streets in a remote village. And my hope is that he will naturally relax here at some point, maybe lie down and enjoy the cool breeze. Looks like we're far from that right now, but I feel like if I stay out here long enough, maybe, just maybe. Hey Siri, set a timer for 3 hours. All right, so to be clear, my hypothesis here is that Chop just needs a little bit more time to take in this environment so he can stabilize mentally and act more calmly. So I've got my whole afternoon blocked off for him since this is my first day working with him. It's gonna be interesting to see how this develops. Even though we've taken efforts to get away from other dogs, there's a dog coming right at us pretty quickly. So rather than stay put this time like I did last time, I'm gonna try to be more proactive by getting farther away from this dog because I'm trying to keep him under threshold this time. Distance from that dog is going to be my friend. And if you're wondering why I'm not giving him treats right now, he's not really into the treats. He just wants to check out his surroundings. And I anticipated that coming out here today because it is such a dramatic change to his environment. That was a great example, wasn't it? He did really terrific. So you can see how just being a little preemptive, we likely prevented a third outburst from him. Notice the minor tension on the leash here. I'm having to get a little bit more physical than I'd like with Chop, and that definitely isn't ideal. But it's the lesser of the evils in order to prevent a full-on reaction. At least that's what my thinking is here in the moment. That's what we mean by management. Desensitizing your dog, managing them. These are critical things when training a dog like Chop. So far, we're implementing 3 major strategies to hopefully make gains on improving Chop's behavior. We're giving him extended time to observe his environment and calm down, desensitization, and we're also relying on management, that is having him on a leash and restricting his access to everything that he wants to go after. That way we can keep him from fully acting on these natural impulses he has. This will also go a long way to counter conditioning him. That is, if he can have calm, good experiences while in this environment, he'll be more likely to repeat that in the future. I really break these down and give you good examples in my second book if you're interested in learning more about this. If your dog is kind of like Chop, I would definitely recommend that book for you. I'll have a link below. Look at him smelling the trail. The dog just walked right through here, right? That also gives him some satisfaction. That is a good idea. Let him check out the dog kind of indirectly. I've never done a training session here, but you can see how easy it is to adapt to your environment. We found this patch, there's a trail going around us. So we get consistent exposure. There's 2 more dogs coming up over here. There's 3 over here. Now this is gonna be a bit more challenging, but you know, what if he just sits and chills? Let me see. Good man. So he's fixating here. Let me see if I can get him over here. What? Yeah, good man. Good boy, Chop. I'm learning a lot about Chop's working distance out here. You'll remember that is his responsiveness to me when there is a dog or any distraction a certain distance away from him. The idea is to not overwhelm him right now. But I also want to be proactive and escort him away before dogs get too close to us, at least wherever possible. And I'm not really giving him treats right now either. That's because he wouldn't take them anyway. Even though he generally loves treats, he wouldn't find that reinforcing out here in this particular context. Instead, his environment is much more interesting to him. And the environment can be a great way to provide positive reinforcement to your dog if you can show them how to interact with it in an acceptable way. Easier said than done. So, I mean, this is evidence. The more time we're spending here, we can correlate that with less of an outburst. Of course, I am more focused on managing him than I was before, probably. I'm definitely starting to get a better idea of when Chop will react. It definitely is more likely when dogs are closer, it seems. But the thing is, he seems somewhat unpredictable at times. Sometimes he's completely fine, other times he completely loses his mind. All right, let's go back, come on. Yep. Noticing the dogs, again, acting appropriately here. Thrilled with this. And since I'm out here to give him exposure, I'm gonna practice just walking back and forth here as well, letting him check out all the smells out here. Let him get familiar with the environment a little more. Keep him moving along. So far, the reactions we've seen, I believe, have been limited exclusively to dogs. But we're also setting ourselves up for success, aren't we? I mean, we're not right on top of distractions. We've made sure that we can more easily distance ourselves from things that cause him overwhelming excitement. Got it. Yeah, that's it. Yes. You want a treat? He's not taking treats, but he is interested in his environment. So again, I'm going to try to use that to my advantage by giving him increased access to what he wants when he's being chill. We have a dog over here coming up, so see how he does while we're in motion. Because the idea really, I'm not trying to say never be excited when you see a dog. What I am trying to say is, when you become excited, get used to paying attention to me so that I can escort you away from that thing causing you to be excited. So here you can see he's doing well. This is interesting because Chop is mildly fixated, but he's also not acting out towards this other dog. It might be best to keep him moving though in order to deter an extended fixation on this dog, which might be more likely to lead to another negative reaction. Come on. Good boy, that's right. Remember, I'm using the word good to mean you're on the right track. A reward is probably coming if you keep trying. And I'm using the word yes to mean you're on the right track and you get something great right now. Now I'm gonna let him look at the dog from a farther distance. I don't want to deny him totally. It's not reasonable to keep those experiences from your dog, but it just so happens that when we are farther away, he can take in and experience that dog in a more appropriate way. You see what I mean?
Look at this fur, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh.
It's just blowing in the wind.
We have to give him a bath, but we have to brush him for 5 hours first.
Thank goodness for vacuum cleaners. I like how he's leaning on me right now. Seems to be a trusting behavior. Look at that, guys. Good man. Just trying to keep him calm. Good. Good boy. That's right. You know, I hope he's slowly starting to get the picture. Just because we see a dog that looks like fun, we can't just play with them. In fact, we can never play with them in this particular context. Chop is starting to do pretty well. I'm gonna take him on a little walk. The thing is though, part of it involves a walk through a narrow path in a pedestrian area. Now it's just a short bit, but I'm definitely going to have to keep good control of this dog. I mean, look at this. As we continue, his extreme pulling picks right back up. This is what I was worried about. We've got another dog approaching during this short part of the walk, and we have nowhere to retreat to. And if Chop does have a full-on reaction using all of his muscles, I'm gonna have to make sure I'm really focused on keeping him under control. I'm gonna keep him really close while we pass this dog as efficiently as we can. He does have a mild reaction. I'm not trying to train him in this moment. It's not reasonable to try to teach him how to behave here and now. That's an example of what you do when you're kind of limited, right? You're on a narrow path, you can't really pull off. You fall back on management. So since he's over threshold, I'm gonna fall back on management. And over the coming weeks, I'll be focused on training him to behave when he comes in close proximity to dogs like this. But for now, again, my goal is to make sure I keep control and manage him and keep this from getting worse. This is kind of scary because there is definitely no shoulder in here. Let's go through this tunnel. Come on, buddy. God, jeez. Man, it's like he's a sled dog or something. Leash pulling is the worst. Get all that energy out, buddy. Get it all out. I love how I'm saying that to an animal who's basically optimized to run tens of miles every day while dragging a sled. Okay, we found a spot to have a nice change in scenery. You're just so fun to look at. So I still have roughly a little over 1/3 remaining on my timer to give him 3 hours in this environment. A lot of people will raise the point that they may not have 3 hours, but you don't have to do it every single day. You know, you find a time on the weekend to go to the park. If you're really trying to make rapid progress, try to do it 3 times a week somehow after work. Maybe you can combine it with your work somehow. Try to get creative. He's doing really well. You know, you got kids and people playing on the playground equipment. There's some dogs over here at a distance, 3 of them. Wow, and he's looking at those. This is a really good distance. This reactivity, I think, is manageable as long as we know what to do. My hope here is that after having this long afternoon out here, getting all of these different experiences, he's gonna go home, he's gonna sleep wonderfully. All of that information is just going to really seep into his brain, and he's gonna wake up tomorrow and feel like he's starting to get it. We'll see. I am so sore right now. Do you think this is too much headroom?
So I'm just sitting here, well, lying here after our shoot today. And I'm thinking, I don't know how Zach is gonna do this because I'm exhausted just from following them around.
We did a nice long walk and he was a lot to handle at the park, I really have to say. It was clear he was really overstimulated. But when I look back on it, I'm really proud at how Chop and I really walk the line. There was some testing to see how close he could be to other dogs before he just started barking excitedly, but we kind of got to know each other pretty quickly in that regard. Even though there were some downsides to the training lesson, I got a lot of data that's going to help me move forward. His outbursts were surprising to me because I'd seen him be a little curious, but as he's coming out of his shell now, the thing that I'm probably most worried about with him is feeling his full strength during one of these reactions, you know, as we test later on. I'm gonna do my best to avoid those, of course, and I'm gonna do a lot of prep work, but there will come a time where we have to go into the real world to see how he does, so that I'll have the most accurate information when it does come time to adopt him out. Not to mention that I'm still optimistic that Chop and Inertia will be able to coexist together in his time with us. But after today, we might have to do more work than I expected before we get there. I'm still extremely looking forward to what he is mixed with. I feel like he's definitely got to be part Malamute. What do you guys think? At first glance, you might think he looks German Shepherd because of the way he sheds and his coloring, but Huskies can easily have this coloring, especially when they're mixed. And Huskies shed really probably worse than German Shepherd dogs do. If it does turn out that he's part Malamute, they are a really ancient breed, so that would be kind of cool to know that I'm working with very old genetics. So far, he really catches on quick. Most dogs do, as long as you're patient with them and just explain to them what you're asking of it and keep things easy for them. Sometimes the trick, though, is really finding the type of training that you have to do that is easy enough for a dog, just so you can get traction. Don't underestimate how small you have to go sometimes to get started with training your dog new things. And next time, we're going to see how Inertia and Chop do on their second meeting. Inertia and I have developed a really special bond over the last couple of years, and I don't want to let her down. This is Reality Dog Training. Go to trynom.com/Zach to get 50% off a 2-week trial of Nom Nom. Subscribe and click the bell. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok and get both of my books too. We'll see you guys next time.